enough is enough. Development of provincial resources is provincial responsibility, that the rest of Canada hears our voices, that Ottawa should stop interfering. On the left side of the spectrum, like to talk about how to spend money. Well, you can't spend it until you create it. We have a presence in New Delhi. Of course, it's been abridged because of the tension over the last couple of years.
To commend Prime Minister Carney as well for first inviting Prime Minister Modi to the G7.
Few opening remarks and then turn it over to my friend, Premier Scott Moe, and thank him for also hosting us on the Saskatchewan side of Lloydminster. I think when we do the Lloydminster Summit #2, we might try to find a location on the Alberta side just to even her up. But thank you for joining us here. The city is a reminder of our shared history and the bonds between our two provinces. 120 years ago on this same day, our provinces were created. We have strong separate identity, but a great deal of commonality. And in fact, we talked a lot about our commonality today. We identified, of course, 9 specific changes that Prime Minister Mark Carney needs to make in order to meet his stated goal of making Canada's economy the strongest in the G7. I have mentioned those several times, but I'll mention them again. Guaranteeing full access to oil and gas corridors, northeast and west, repealing Bill C-69, lifting the tanker ban off the BC coast, eliminating the oil and gas emissions cap, scrapping the so-called clean electricity regs, the net zero power regs, ending the designation of plastics as toxic, abandoning the net zero car mandate and returning oversight of the industrial carbon tax to the provinces, as well as halting the federal censorship of energy companies. And I think we're here today as a united caucus because we've decided that enough is enough. Development of provincial resources is provincial responsibility, and that includes the development of our transmission and electricity grids. And if we can unite in a common purpose, we can ensure that the rest of Canada hears our voices, that Ottawa should stop interfering. Because together, we believe Alberta and Saskatchewan have an opportunity to speak with one voice to Ottawa, outlining a vision for our country. And we can call for a country that works for all of us. So with that, I'd be happy to turn it over to Premier Moe.
Firstly, and then there will be a follow-up, how does your advocacy recognize the fact that in the last 20 years' history in Canada, the only 2 major pipelines that have been built happened under the watch of the Liberals, and you're talking the TMX and the I'm hearing that the one in Kitimat might be shipping gas as this weekend. How does your advocacy recognize the fact that in the last 20 years in Canada's history, that the only 2 pipelines that have been built happened under the Liberal watch?
Well, I would say that there are a number of different pipelines who've done expansions along existing rights-of-way, who've done compression, who have figured out a way with the limitations that we've had to increase egress. That's why we're up to about 4.2 million barrels a day right now out of Alberta. If I look at the Trans Mountain pipeline, if we have to build another pipeline with federal taxpayer dollars, that would be a failure of the process. The federal government simply cannot put so many barriers in the way that all the private sector proponents are scared out of the realm, and then the only way for them to come in is to build at 6 times the original cost. That shouldn't be the only way things get built in this country. And if you talk to the proponent who managed as well to have a very difficult construction project for Coastal GasLink, the barriers put in the way probably added billions of dollars of additional cost to that as well, which is why I welcome a 2-year to yes window where we can streamline the permitting process, figure out the right way to do it. Because if we had the private sector building, we would have had Keystone XL, we would have had Energy East, we would have had Northern Gateway, and Alberta would already be well on its way to doubling its production. Those 3 pipelines would have added 2.5 million barrels per day of additional egress. And if you look at today's pricing, that's $55 billion worth of revenue year after year, every year. 40% of which goes to governments, both provincial and federal. So I don't think that we should be complacent. I don't think we should say, oh, well, I guess it's good enough. I think that we all have demands on us as provinces. We have demands on our public services. We need to build schools and hospitals and infrastructure. And you need to have a source of revenue to do it. I know that those on the left side of the spectrum like to talk about how to spend money. Well, you can't spend it until you create it. And so let's create the wealth, and then we can talk about what our priorities are afterwards. But continuing on the way we have for the past 10 years, where growth is limited, is not in the interests of any of us.
Now, I would just point to the Prime Minister's aspirational comments around making policy decisions that would ensure that Canada can become an energy superpower and have the strongest economy in the G7. If we want to truly aspire to those two statements, and I think we can, then policies certainly do matter, and the policies are much larger than any single pipeline that might have to be built. That's why at Western Premiers, you saw myself, Premier Smith, Premier Eby, Canoe, as well as the Northern Premiers come forward with the port-to-port corridor concept, which I think is generational in what it can achieve for all Canadians, in particular those in the Western four provinces and the Northern Territories. That port-to-port corridor would really provide the opportunity for us to open up markets in Asia, open up additional capacity in Europe for all products. That we produce. And if we are going to achieve those aspirations of becoming the strongest economy in the G7 and becoming a global energy superpower, we're going to only do that by creating policies that are going to unleash the opportunity for investment to flow into all of the natural resources that we have in Canada, and that includes oil and gas, and getting it to market. So it's much larger than LNG or an oil pipeline on its own, and it's very beneficial, I think, to each and every Canadian, in particular in Western and Northern provinces and territories, but by extension, all Canadians.
I wanted to start with one of the big stories coming out of the G7. That's that Canada and India have agreed to exchange high commissioners for the first time in several years. I wanted to get your reaction to this development, as well as your thoughts on the suitability and qualification of Premier Mo's predecessor, Brad Wall, to potentially be Canada's appointee as High Commissioner to India.
Well, I'd be supportive of that. I think that Saskatchewan has done some incredibly impressive work on expanding its footprint internationally through its trade offices, in particular India, which I know Premier Mo is going to be talking about, to the point where we have a presence in New Delhi. Of course, it's been abridged because of the tension over the last couple of years. But we also have presence in China. It has been under pressure in the last few years as well. Diplomacy means that you continue the relationship knowing that although you have bad patches from time to time, at some point you end up resolving your differences and you move forward. So I think that there's still differences and issues that have to be addressed, but I think it would be a positive step for us to begin having those conversations.
Yeah, I would also be a proponent for former Premier Brad Wall to be not only the High Commissioner to India, but essentially the face and the voice for many of Canada's foreign relations. We'll see what his answer is to that. But I would say the reason and why I would be a proponent of someone like the former Premier Brad Wall to be High Commissioner in India is because of the effort and the focus that he provided our province and our government under his tenure to those province-to-nation relations and province-to-industry relations in not just India but many countries around the world, which really speaks to the opportunity that we want to fulfill in this port-to-port concept, connecting Asian and European markets. Because we have been working hard as provinces to build relations not only with our largest trading partner, which is the United States of America, but with other markets around the world, which at times can be challenging. We see what has happened We've been part of tariff conversations in India in years gone by, currently are and have been in years gone by with China, as well as many other countries around the world. We have a strong trade relationship with India today from Saskatchewan's perspective, I would say more broadly from Western Canada's perspective. And I would just take the opportunity to commend Prime Minister Carney as well. For first inviting Prime Minister Modi to the G7 and then to sit down and to advance the trade relationship that Canada has with India. It's I believe our third largest trading partner as the province of Saskatchewan, been an important and ongoing trade partner for Saskatchewan for a number of years now. And so I would say thank you to Prime Minister Carney for what was by some will be viewed as a very bold action.